What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more psytrance, and we're back with a melting pot of notable folks in the psytrance slash Goa trance world. I would say more psytrance. Again, the way these terms are defined depends on who you ask, but generally speaking, psychedelic trance of the 90s with heavier kick drums and lots of acid work, that's typically referred to as Goa trance, which built out of the psychedelic scene in Goa, India in the late 80s and early 90s. And then what is typically referred to as psytrance is a related form of generally slightly lighter kick drum and more melodic based psychedelic trance that came about in the mid to late 90s, and especially once you pass the 2000 threshold. In any case, we're going to listen to a tune originally by 1200 Micrograms, or 1200 mics as they're often called, which is itself already sort of a super group. It features the guys from GMS, originally Growling Mad Scientists, and then they eventually just started going by GMS, as well as a guy, it's like David Chesterfield? I don't think it's Chesterfield, but he goes by Chicago sometimes. And then the Don, the guru himself, Ron Rothfeld, who originally was in like this 60s/70s jazz funk fusion group called Quintessence as the flutist, and then he went on the hippie trail and eventually found his way to Goa and became this label boss and occasional producer in the Goa Psy world, which is to say Roger Ram. So all those guys together are 1200 mics. Now, I've mentioned before Save the Robot, a duo who, made a brilliant album about 10, 12 years ago. Then they went into like the house realm, and recently they've been making some psytrance again. One guy in that duo is Alien Project, and the other guy is like Odofer or something. I forget the other name, or the name that the other guy goes by, but they're like a brilliant psytrance duo, and their album Battle of the Mind remains probably my favorite post-2000 psytrance album. So this is a double LP of 1200 Micrograms tracks remixed by other artists. So we're going to listen to one of the remixes on this. Now, all 1200 mic albums, I have, I think, 2 of them, and there's one more that I don't have, unfortunately. But they're all themed. They're all like concept albums, and one of them is themed around different places around the world, different wonders of the world throughout history and geography. And on that album, there's a track called Greece. So we're going to listen to the Save the Robot remix of Greece on this 1200 Micrograms remix double LP. All of this is on TIP.World, which is to say the later imprint of TIP Records. TIP Records was releasing a lot of like proper 90s Goa trance in the 90s, and then for like licensing or arcane reasons of like publishing rights and so on, Raja Ram switched to the label TIP.World, and by that point, again, psytrance in a more modern sense was sort of taking over the psychedelic scene, and there was less old school Goa. So when I think TIP.World, I think of like right around 2000 and after psytrance. Now eventually the situation changed again, and the original TIP label, not TIP.World, but TIP, was brought back, so it's complicated, but this is during the phase when it was TIP.World, as are the 1200 Micrograms albums that I spoke about, including the one which, I'm forgetting the name of the album, but the one which Greece originally comes from. So here we go. This is 1200 Micrograms, or sometimes just called 1200 mics. This is their track Greece, as remixed by Save the Robot, an incredible psytrance duo. Did you get all that? Because I'm not repeating it. I guess you can just back up the video. Rolling electric bass lines of psytrance. And the dead pauses, lots of dead pauses for the final 4 beats of a measure in post-2000 psytrance. robot dialect. Gnarly, wicked acid. So in the original Greece and the other tracks from that World History album from 1200 Mics, all the tracks have a bit of like folk or traditional music influence from the country in question or from the region in question. The Greek traditional music element is toned down in this remix, but you'll still hear it in a couple minutes. Rising muffled kick drums leading into a drop. That element is much more prominent in the original Greece. But forget about that. Rock out to this. touches. In so many genres, the sort of secondary intro or primary outro, meaning not the very beginning and not the very end, but like the second part after the beginning and the penultimate part near the end. Typically the kick drum is there, but also the bass line and maybe like one or two of the synths. Even though those tend to be more minimal parts compared to the main part of the track where the big melody or the big breakdown and drop comes, I really tend to like those secondary intros and primary outros. Although in this case, the primary outro basically led right into the proper end of the track. Normally there's like, or not normally, but often there's another like 64 or 128 after that where it's really stripped down and the bass line goes out and it's just sort of the kick drum. Now, longer intros and outros are very DJ friendly. DJs love that because you have more options, you have more time to do beat matched transitions. But again, you know, as a DJ, I try to make it so that by the time you're getting to the final outro and the bass line is gone, the bass line in the new track that you're mixing into has just turned on. So anyway, my point is I really enjoy those slightly stripped down but still bass line featuring sections. In any case, this whole track is fantastic. I do very much enjoy the touch of the like traditional Greek dancing type of melody, which again in the 1200 Mics original is much more prominent. And to be fair, you know, on Discogs I read lots of other people's reviews and so on. I've been writing reviews for now going on like 20 years. And I remember for the original Grease, there were a couple people like, it's sort of gimmicky and whatever. I suppose I get that. In ultimately the other tracks on that like World album, which in the moment it's killing me that I can't remember the name of it. But yes, there's some parts of that album where it's almost like you forget like you're listening to psytrance for a minute because it's really trying to give you like, oh, this is kind of the traditional music of this area. Whereas here it's still while you're waiting for the, you know, psytrance drop to come back. So you get a taste of it, but it's not as full as in the other version where I have seen some people say it's, you know, not their favorite part. In any case, I do think Save the Robot are arguably, for my money, the best producers of this type of psytrance. Now, to be fair also, one of the remixes on here, the remix of the Egypt track, which is great in the original as well, is by Eat Static, and they're known a little more for like 90s Goa, 90s like psytrance. And their track, even though it is a bit more, or I was going to say a bit new school or, you know, post-2000 psytrance, there's a bit of flavor of like 90s Goa and that. So there's other great remixes on this compilation. But still, having said that, I think the Save the Robot remix of Grease is my favorite on this double LP. And as I said, their Battle of the Mind double album is as good as it gets. So yes, again, bottom line, I'm going to try to get back to more psytrance, more acid techno, more hardcore. I'm still going to be doing all these other deep dives, but, you know, the essence of my channel when I first began was like 90% electronic music, and then punk rock and, you know, Iron Maiden and some other things found their way in. And then eventually I started reacting to Erasure and Duran Duran, and the rest, as they say, is history. But the point is, I am going to try to get back to a slightly higher percentage of psytrance, Goa trance, acid techno, acid trance, hardcore, those types of genres. So I hope people are here for it. Let me know what you think of this remix. I will see you next time. Peace.